Okay, well, welcome to my capital budgeting simulation. So I'm going to start by talking about my dashboard. As you can see under the financial snapshot, my company APV was this 684.19. And then over here is the revenue, operating income, and net income divisions. So my revenue for 2009 was 245.75, and then my current revenue is 345.17. My operating income is this 22.60, and my current is 41.62. The net income for 2009 was 1356, and the current is 24.97. And so as you can see in all three sections, my actual amount was greater than the forecasted amount, which is represented in these little bar graphs. So then I took a look at the divisional reports, which are down here. And so you could look at the cash flow by division, and the blue represents licensing, green is retail, and red is production. And then the revenue by division, or I paid more attention to the operating profit by division. And so as you can see, most of my operating profit comes from licensing, which is at 24.33, followed by production at 9.96, and retail at 7.33. And then over here on this side, not all that, but right here is where you can see my project updates. And these are just the projects that I selected in 2014. I tended to lean more towards projects that dealt more with licensing, as you can tell over here in my operating profit. Just because licensing is not very it doesn't have a big expense, but it still makes quite a bit of money. And I also tried to focus a little bit on the expansion of my company. So moving on under the financial analysis tab, I looked at the company tab more than really the other ones, just to see how these numbers are affecting my company. I tried to pick a diverse set of projects, such as mutually exclusive, independent, expansion projects. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to my project details tab, and that's gonna show you a little bit about each project that I chose. So let's say for 2009, I chose the Match My Doll clothing line, and right here it just gives you a little brief description about the project in general. And then below we've got the NPV, the IRR, the discount, the payback period, and the profitability index. So in 2009, I chose projects more, I focused more on the payback period than anything else. I really wanted to make sure that I chose projects that were not very not greater than 9 years. So then I went to my
pay.
cash flow statement, and again, I looked more at the company tab than the production, retail, or licensing, but I did kind of look at them. So I just mostly tried to find patterns. I just kind of tried to look at the company as a whole to see where my money was going and where I was making my money and where my cash was going. So then I moved, let's go back to my project details. So this is where I really looked a lot into the projects that I chose. We were given budgets throughout the simulation, and that meant we couldn't pick everything that we wanted to, so I had to pay attention to the project details. I did pay quite a bit of attention after the year of 2009 to the NPV, the IRR, and the profitability index, just because I wanted to make sure that these numbers were as high as possible, and then I would take a look at the payback period. I definitely tried to stay away from payback periods that were greater than 9.5 years. So it was also important for me to look at how long the projects were available when I was making my decision, because some of the projects were only available during certain years, and so I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss out on any opportunities on projects that had a short lifespan, I guess. So then for capital rationing on investment, I went back to my dashboard here, and maybe and I took a look at my annual budget, and this helped me to determine the amount of money I had used and what I had left, just to be able to manage my money in a better way. So as for interpreting my investments, I definitely looked at the NPV first. So I guess we'll go back to the project details. And I wanted to see which projects would benefit me the most. So then I looked at the internal rate of return to determine how profitable each project was going to be. And then I looked at the profitability index to see which had the highest number. And then before I made my final decision, I looked at the payback period. And I definitely wanted to make sure I had the highest NPV, IRR, and PI with a reasonable payback period. It didn't have to be anything small, but I definitely didn't want it to be a huge number either. So I looked at these because it is the reflection of each project. It shows how well or how not well that they are going to do. So I did kind of look at the historical financials, but they didn't really influence my decisions that much. And so capital budgeting influences companies a lot. It's very important for their long-term success. It's important for them to be looking at the specific numbers and not just going off of what their competition is doing or their personal opinions. It's really important that they look
really
at the
important
NPV.
that
They look at the NPV, the IRR, and the PI, and the payback period, just to make sure that they understand what their project is about and how it is going to affect their company in the long term. So after I, studied these numbers and I studied the details, it eventually helped me reach this APV of 684.19. So I think that's it.